This is Autoline Daily, the show dedicated to enthusiasts of the global automotive industry. The situation at Volkswagen in Europe seems to be getting worse. Yesterday, we reported that it's thinking the unthinkable, closing factories in Germany. And today, VW CFO said the company only has 1 or 2 years to turn things around. He blamed weaker car sales in Europe, saying VW has lost 500,000 units a year since the COVID pandemic, while the total European market is down by about 2 million vehicles. And 500,000 cars is about the equivalent of 2 assembly plants worth of production. VW's labor unions and works councils have vowed to prevent any plants in Germany from closing, but VW likely needs to close even more than 2 plants. It has a global capacity to make about 14 million vehicles a year, but last year it made 9 million. And these developments have alarmed German government officials to the point that they're reviving a plan to offer EV incentives. EV sales plunged in Germany after it ended a subsidy program last December. They were down almost 37% last month alone. Under the new plan, car buyers will be able to deduct the depreciation of their EV from their taxes, starting at 40% the first year, then gradually sliding down to 6%. And it's not just EVs. Other zero-emission vehicles will also qualify. The total cost of the plan will be nearly $500 million a year. But VW isn't the only German brand that's running into problems. Auto Forecast Solutions says that sales of the Mercedes S-Class have dropped dramatically. They're down 17% in China, 29% in Europe, and 33% in the United States. So Mercedes is eliminating a shift at the plant where the car is made in Germany, and a major redesign won't be out until 2029. Mercedes is blaming the slow sales on a sluggish global economy and high interest rates. But we think it's also facing more competition in the U.S. and in China. Dock workers in the U.S. are threatening to go on strike if they don't receive a new labor deal before the current one expires at the end of the month. And that could have a huge impact on all the vehicles and components that are imported. The International Longshoresmen Association represents about 45,000 dock workers on both the East and Gulf coasts at about 3 dozen ports, and 6 of those ports are among the 10 busiest in the U.S. Dock workers want an 80% pay raise over the next 6 years and are concerned about the increased use of automation. Logistics experts estimate that every week of a stoppage would result in about a month of shipping delays. BYD has said that the plant that it wants to build in Mexico will not ship any cars to the U.S., and yet Bloomberg reports that the company is pausing plans to build that plant until after the U.S. elections. No doubt the U.S. is putting pressure on Mexico to prevent more Chinese plants from getting built there. But it's kind of odd to us that BYD would wait until after the election to announce a plant in Mexico. The one thing both Democrats and Republicans seem to agree on is that they're not going to let Chinese cars into the American market, even if they're made in Mexico. Yet even so, Auto Forecast Solutions says that SAIC is scouting for a Mexican plant to build its MG5, MG-HS, and its MG Mulan electric there. And by the way, MG says it will launch an EV with only solid-state batteries in China sometime next year, possibly on the Cyber GTS.
There's nothing wrong with heavy metal.
Hey, lighten up.
But with world-class composite material, Teijin Automotive Technologies makes vehicles lighter, safer, and more eco-friendly.
Stellantis continues to expand its lineup of hydrogen-powered commercial vehicles in Europe. And like the new Opel Movano Hydrogen, I think all of Stellantis' fuel cell vehicles are commercial vans. Power comes from a 150 horsepower electric motor, and range is estimated at 500 kilometers or 310 miles. Opel doesn't say, but if it's like its other hydrogen vans, The tanks are mounted under the floor where the battery pack would be in an all-electric model. There's also an 11 kilowatt-hour battery likely under the front seat, but it's mostly there to provide support when starting and accelerating. Price and on-sale date for the Movano Hydrogen were not revealed yet. The Nissan Armada, or Nissan Patrol depending on where you're from, is getting some big changes, and it will go on sale before the end of the year. Those big changes include no more V8. It's replaced by a 3.5-liter twin-turbo V6, but it makes 425 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque, which is 25 more horsepower and over 100 pound-feet more than the V8. And thanks to upgrades to the frame, it can still tow the same 8,500 pounds. The engine is paired to a 9-speed automatic, replacing the old 7-speed unit, and it sends power to the rear wheels or through an optional 4-wheel drive system. The interior for me is also a real step up for Nissan in terms of style. The seats especially look like they got a lot of attention, with unique patterns in the backs and bottoms, and the use of contrasting colors and stitching. A new push-button shifter and HVAC controls clear up space on the center console, and a longer, thinner display sits on the dash. A few other highlights include optional 22-inch wheels, an air suspension system, hands-free driving capability, and in North America, the new Armada gets Nissan's off-road package for the first time, called Pro 4X. While car buyers often cite limited driving range compared to ICEs and the lack of a charging infrastructure for not purchasing an EV, a new study from Bloomberg found that in countries with a more mature EV infrastructure, EVs are more popular with active drivers, or drivers who drive more. For example, in China and the Netherlands, EVs traveled 66% and 56% more than ICE vehicles respectively. And the same is true in Norway, Sweden, and Canada. In the US, ICE vehicles still travel more than EVs. However, in California, which has the highest EV adoption in the country, EV usage is higher. EVs are cheaper to operate on a per-mile basis than ICEs, so if you drive a lot, you'll save money. Jeep is already replacing its head of North America. Stellantis announced that Bob Broderdorf will replace Bill Peffer effective immediately. Peffer was named the head of Jeep North America only 9 months ago, but now he's being moved to head of Stellantis' North American dealer network development. Broderdorf, who was most recently the VP of Ram brand operations, has his work cut out for him. Jeep's sales have declined for the past 5 years in a row, and in the second quarter of this year, they fell another 19%. Geely is launching a new low-cost EV that will compete with the BYD Dolphin, and it's giving away free ice cream to anyone who goes for a test drive. Geely actually formed a partnership with Häagen-Dazs for the new Xiaomi Jingyuan and used different ice cream flavors as inspiration for all of the paint colors. Power comes from either a 78 or 114 horsepower electric motor, which are fed by a 30 or 40 kilowatt-hour LFP battery from CATL. Range is estimated at 310 and 410 kilometers, or 192 and 254 miles. And China's EV price war is still alive and kicking. The Xiaomi Jingyuan has an expected starting price around $11,250, which would be over $2,000 cheaper than the BYD Dolphin. Ford is going to take longer than we typically see to make major updates to a couple of current products. Auto Forecast Solutions reports that the Mustang Mach-E won't get a new platform until 2028. The EV will still continue to be made in Mexico and China, with production of the next-gen model starting in April of that year. It also says production of the next-gen Maverick won't start until September 2031. The small truck is also made in Mexico, but at a different plant than the Mach-E. The slowdown in EV demand and uptick in hybrid sales likely played a role in this decision, But Ford can also reduce costs by keeping the models around a little bit longer than usual. And that brings us to the end of today's show. Thanks for tuning in.
Autoline Daily is brought to you by Bridgestone, solutions for your journey. Intrepid Control Systems, over-the-air engineering boost your game. MEDC, where Michigan businesses are powering the future of mobility. And by Teijin Automotive Technologies, the formula for better mobility.
Intrepid's NeoVi Pi, allowing automotive engineers to interface, capture, and monitor vehicle data using Raspberry Pi. As a matter of fact, it's the automotive industry's first robust platform for Raspberry Pi, featuring Intrepid CAN-FD technology and Raspberry Pi compute module. The NeoVi Pi is designed for automotive environments, allowing use with relative power ranges and applications. In addition, the NeoVi Pi enables you to use the Raspberry Pi for compute while avoiding additional development to adapt to network environments. That makes the NeoVi Pi powerful enough to solve your vehicle network problems, yet small enough to fit in your backpack. One of many Intrepid tools used for developing zonal architecture and software-defined vehicles.
Trusting tires designed for the long haul. Because you'll always go the distance. For friends. That's what really matters. Bridgestone Alenza tires with an 80,000-mile limited warranty.
When we did our research for the talent that we need for this program, Michigan was really the top of the list. In order to be successful in this space, you really have to have the right people, the right mindset, the right environment.